Madam Vice Rector Professor Natalia Morse, dear colleagues, my opening keynote is about digital storytelling, an emerging technology to teach in the 21st century. And what I'm going to present you, it will be in two stages. First, the evolution of the technologies and methodologies, and about digital storytelling. Before I start, I'd like to put you a question. Is it really different to teach in the 21st century than it was to teach in the 20th century or before? I have listened to many people say only the big evolution is about technologies, teaching, and there is not much difference. But I would like to reflect with you about this subject. And as the Chinese says, the history is like a crystal ball on which we can see a shadow of the future. If we look back and we reflect from Socrates to digital era, we can say that in the beginning it was just talk and talk. This was teaching. This was more than 2,000 years. And in the beginning of the Renaissance, enormous technological effects appear. It was the blackboard. And since there, teaching was much more. It was talk with chalk, not only talk with talk, as the British says in the jokey way. But much more has to happen. In the 20th century, we start to see the presentations with talk and show. It was important to show images. It was important to show an abstract, a synthesis of what we are presenting. And these are slideshows, are presentations. But in the 21st century, it was something really different. It was talk from the cloud. And now we are using really digital technology to communicate, to present our contents and so on. But this is in a very surface way. If we want to go deep in the subject and in details, we can say that in 70 years we evolve from a room computer to tiny small equipments like this that we are using today all over. Thousands of times more powerful, thousands of times smaller, with fantastic software and compression and so on. So we are today using all of these technologies. But what happens in parallel? Since the 19th century, distance learning starts. In the beginning, it was just, let's say, showing some kinds using regular posts. But in the Second World War, with the teaching machine and Skinner, a new revolution happens because there are no teachers to teaching the young boys going to the war or to teaching the same young boys to integrating civil activities and knowledge and training. So we have three important stages. First, it was the open universities. Second, it was the teleschool. And the third, with video cassettes. This was really enormous evolution. And in that, we start to listen about something called e-learning. In the beginning, let's say, in the 90s of the 20th century, it was distributed learning, web-based learning, internet-based learning, computer-based learning, distance learning, and finally, B-learning. But this B-learning, in the beginning, it was presence and distance. Let's see the evolution of this e-learning. But Rosenberg said in 2001 that the future we will have a more radical revolution than e-learning. it will be the disappearing of the E, and we will have only learning. This was what Rosenberg saw in 2001. In fact, this evolution was a huge evolution, but we have two different stages of beginning, because we realized immediately that e-learning, only sending contents to our students, was not possible. It was not quality enough for teaching and learning. The second stage was e-learning 2.0 in about 2004 with Stefan Downes and O'Reilly, which they are promoting interactivity, but asynchronous interactivity. And immediately after, George Siemens started to talk about connectivism, which means connecting people to learn and making a better process of teaching and learning. And this connectivism was composed of synchronous activities. So we have another different way of be-learning. This be-learning was divided in asynchronous activities distributed on demand and synchronous activities that could be in presence or in distance. So this is the real revolution, or let's say the real technological evolution. But in the other side, we have as well enormous evolution from methodological point of view, from Watson, Skinner, Piaget, Vygotsky, from behaviorism to constructivism, the theory of the multi-intelligence and the learning styles, emotional intelligence and learning with Daniel Goldman, interactivity and learning, from neurophysiological process, learning exactly how a human being learns, social learning and collaborative connectivism from George Siemens. This is an enormous, fantastic evolution, done no more than 1 century. But in 2 decades, we propose to create knowledge and information society, connecting cultures, connecting countries and civilizations in real time. But what happened 2 decades after? Today, we have, in fact, what? A knowledge and disinformation society, only connecting cultures, countries and civilizations in real time. We have a lot of information, not qualified information. But learning and teaching scenarios for the school of the future are presence and distance, traditional courses and MOOCs, grades and long life learning, formal and informal, and self-learning. This is the overview what we will have in the 21st century. But more than that, about our students. What happened to our clients? Who are our clients? We can say that our students are digital learners today. They read less than 2% of all the time available. They are spending thousands of times watching TV, using mobile phones, using video games, and so on. So we can say that our students are digital multimodal learners. They have different learning styles. They are learning quantities of information in a structured surface format. And our brain records in the short-term memory, or let's say the working memory, and transfers to the permanent memory for interactivity and reflection. These are our students. But our students are doing more. They are asking our multimedia contents.
Diz lá, olá.
And about today. Today, we are living in an exponential evolution. This exponential evolution is every day appearing new techniques, new methods, but they are not so much different. The only thing we can say that for a student starting 4-year technical degree, this means that half of what they have learned in the first year they will be outdated by the third year of study. This is the reality. We are currently preparing students for jobs that don't yet exist and using technologies that have not been invented. This is our reality in order to solve problems that we don't ever know that problems are yet. This is what we have in face of us. A course today is 4 years of introduction for 40 years of life learning. So, how should we teach in the 21st century? This is a very important question. As we could see, it is really different today from it was in the past. But let's reflect about it. Today, learners have all contents available. This is, you can go to the internet and you find videos about everything, or you can find documents in text format about everything you want to know and want to learn. And no doubt we need technologies and tools, but we need as well appropriated methodologies to use it. This is what is our challenge. More, teacher skills for the 21st century should be something like blended skills, because it's impossible to teach today. We know how to use a computer, we know how to use internet. Doesn't matter if we are in a presence course or if we are in a distance course. Of course, it's slightly differences between one or another, but it's blended teaching, blended know-how to do it. So, to know how to teach with new methodologies and ICT tools, it's important. Teach how to learn, it's another thing that it's important as well, because we know exactly how does a human brain learns, so we can help our students to learn better and easier. And teach how to manage large quantities of information. This is what we have in front of us. So what type of new methodologies and ICT tools to be a good teacher in the 21st century? Besides to be an expert in a specific scientific area, it is important that we define a teaching model based on new methodologies in ICTs. Know how to prepare our contents in multimedia format, tutoring in presence and online, formative continuous assessment, know how to use LMS, and know how to use a virtual classroom if you are teaching in a distance course, and some other tools that we can point out. But these are the basic and the fundamental tools to be used on. So why is didactic communication so important? Because it's important to communicate with our students. It's important to present contents in digital multimedia format. It's important to know how to narrate properly. You have to make it in a way that our ears could understand what we are saying, but much more than that, our brain could understand what they are saying. And non-verbal communication are as well very important to complement all this process of transfer information. So what we can say, it's the more 200,000 years of mankind, we always told stories. Doesn't matter if we are in the walls of the caves, doesn't matter if we are around the bonfires, doesn't matter wherever we are, but in the facades of the temples, the stories were there. So more than that, when Ramses II built Abu Simbel, he said, "From here is Egypt. Please be careful." And the guardian of the temple showed me what it was. But not only outside, inside, in the walls of the temples, the stories are there. And in the vases, they are there as well. or in the manuscripts with illuminations, and they have informations. In the cathedrals, inside the cathedrals, we have a lot of stories about the Bible, about all the religions. But today, everything has changed. Today we are facing a new renaissance. It's digital storytelling. And we quest a global culture in a planetary space, a new way of writing, which is the digital writing, a new way of publishing, which is the web. This is what we have today. But we almost lost the capacity of communicate. We are using mainly mobile phones to communicate. Everywhere we use it. We don't know, it doesn't matter if we are in the seaside or if we are in the bus station and so on, but we are using mainly mobile phones. But when we return home, no one uses another thing. They watch television. They don't talk with each other. Children doesn't listen the stories of the parents of the grandparents. Mainly, when we go to the conference or presentations in the classroom, what we see, presentations like this, blocks of letters, blocks of images, static images, not didactic communication. But this is not only in one language. You can see it in my language, Portuguese, you can see it in English, you can see it in Spanish or any other language. Most of the presentations are lousy presentations like this. Even people are using PDFs to make presentations, which is something with no words to qualify it, because there is no animation, because there is no communication, not digital communication. It's lost the know-how how to make digital storytelling. What we have to do a new challenge. But digital storytelling is implementing our ideas, our contents, our services, our products successfully in digital and multimedia format. Today, I should say that digital storytelling can be personal, can be descriptive like contents and so on, or creative stories. And these stories can be addressed to children and to adults. These are the two large groups of storytellings. So, what we are facing today, we are facing a revolution of sharing, a revolution of multimedia, a revolution of thinking, and this is digital storytelling. But more than that, in our revolution, there are a lot in common, and the way we tell our stories, we say our poetry, we express our romanticism, or we use our technologies. This is digital storytelling. But more, the complexity is based on recreate stories, recreate contents, present traditional culture or high-tech information in a common language. We are fed up of listening people saying beautiful things that no one understands than himself. We are not questioning what is possible. We are challenging the impossible with the communication based on digital storytelling. We can say that a man that any one of you knows, and Hans Christian Andersen, one of the best storytellers from the 19th century, he said, "Fairy tales are good to make children sleep and to awake sleeping adults." This is a message from Hans Christian Andersen. But I should say that one of the best storytellers of the 20th century was Steve Jobs. He was the best.
I'm very happy to be here today with you all. And as some of you may know, about 5 months ago, I had a liver transplant. So I now have the liver of a mid-20s person who died in a car crash and was generous enough to donate their organs. And I wouldn't be here without such generosity. So I hope all of us can be as generous and elect to become organ donors. Round of applause. So I'm vertical. I'm back at Apple, loving every day of it. And I'm getting to work with our incredibly talented teams to come up with some great new products for you all in the future. So it's wonderful. Thank you.
And the question is, are you prepared to be the best digital storyteller for the 21st century? Please ask this question to yourself. Thank you very much for your attention. It was a pleasure to be with you.